Hello class, these are our notes for informal geometry. We're on section 5.3. We're still working on proving triangles are congruent. So this time we're going to learn about the angle side angle and angle side postulate. So that's why it's ASA, that's angle side angle, and AAS is angle side. So let's remember from before, we already have side, and we have side, angle, side. So we're adding two more postulates. So today we're looking at angle side angle. So angle side angle is when we have two pairs of congruent angles and the side that's between them. And I'm going to call that the included side. So let's see what that looks like on some triangles. So I'm going to mark a couple angles congruent. And then I need to have the side that is between them. So basically the side connecting the angles. So that means this side here and this side here. That's the side connecting the angles. So that's the one that I need to mark congruent. Another way I could draw that out, I could use this angle here. So the angle's kind of along the base, what looks like the base of the triangle. And then this side would be connecting those angles, and so would this side. So those would have to be the ones that are congruent. So it is the included side, it's the side that's between, and it's touching both of those angles. So the next one that we have is called angle side. So I think this one's probably the trickiest one yet. So angle side is two pairs of congruent angles. And a side or a pair of sides. Because it's not really one, right? So it's a pair of sides, not between them. All right, so this could look like I have an angle here, and now I don't want to pick the one connecting them. I want to pick either of the other sides. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one on the bottom. So if I go around my shape, I have an angle, and then another angle, and then a side. That's why it's called angle side. I could choose those same two angles, but then instead pick this other side that's not between them. So basically, if we have two angles and a side, it's always going to be congruent. It's just a matter of how we name it. And this one would be angle side as well. I kind of like doing that with the letters. I'm going to go back up to the top and do that as well. So with our first one, it was an angle and then a side and then an angle. And same thing down here, an angle and then a side and then an angle. So the side was between them. And now we're looking at the side not being between them. So we're going to practice using this. So we'll start out again like we did on our notes yesterday, looking at some triangles and trying to decide if they're congruent or not. So on this first one, I have two angles and two sides marked congruent. And I can see really clearly here, I have an angle, and then I have a side, and then I have another angle. So yes, they're congruent, and my reason is angle, side, angle. And then I need to go ahead and name my shapes. So if I call the first one ABC, so triangle ABC, then when I look at the corresponding vertices on the second one, the corresponding parts, I'm starting off at the angle that didn't have an angle marker on it. So let's start off at D. And then I went to the angle that had two angle arcs. So this way and then this way. So it'll be DFE. So you have to make sure to name those letters in that same corresponding order. So next one, I have two angles again and a side, but this time it's not the side between them, it's this one off on the side. So I have an angle, and then I have a side. So yes, they are congruent. It is angle, side. And let's say triangle, let's call it triangle TRS. And the other one I would name ZYX. So again, we're not doing like the last couple days. It doesn't seem like we're doing math right now, but the part of math that we should be able to relate to is we have this critical thinking. First, we're saying, are they congruent? Then the reason, then giving us our congruent statement. We have to pay attention to detail. We have to read these diagrams and understand them. So there's still a lot of math involved. We're not just solving for x, though. It's very different now. So on the next one, are we congruent? Well, we have some right angles. Right angles are congruent to each other. So I have an angle, and then I have another side, and I have an angle on both of them. So yes, we have angle, side angle. And so triangle, I'm going to start with my right angle, ABC. So then I have to start with my right angle on the other one. So let's see, this is going to be triangle D. Oh, yeah, I did start at my right angle. D, E, and then F. And for the last one, let's see, what do we have? Do we have angle, side angle, or angle, angle, side? So here I have an angle and then a side. But on the other one, I have an angle and then a side and the angle. So they're not the same. They're not in the same order. So my answer is going to be no. And the reason is one triangle is angle, angle, side, and the other is angle, side, angle. So not the same thing. So now we're going to look at, we got a new section here. So it says list what you know is congruent from the diagram, then list one more thing you would need in order to show the triangles are congruent, and then show which postulate you're using. So we could use any of the four we know so far. So from the diagram, which pair of sides are congruent? Well, we have AC that is congruent to EC. And I can see that with these marks right here. The other sides that are congruent are DC and BC. And those are marked right here. What else can you understand is congruent by looking? Well, we have vertical angles. So my vertical angles are here and here. So that means angle ACB is congruent to angle ECD. Why are the triangles congruent? They're congruent because we have a side and then an angle and then a side. So my angle is connecting those two sides. If I trace both of the sides on one of my triangles, they will connect at this angle. So that's how I can tell it's side, angle, side. The angle is in between. All right, looking at our second problem from the diagram, what is congruent? Well, we have this side here and this side here. So I have segment FH congruent to segment LJ. Also, I know some angles are congruent. So I have angle K and angle G. And I have F and L. Angle F congruent to angle L. So why are the triangles congruent? So I've got two angles and a side. So I have to decide, is it angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side? So I can see that this is the side joining my two angles, and it is not marked congruent. So when I move around the shape, I have an angle and then a side. The side is not between them. So they are congruent because of angle, angle, side. So now we have parallel lines. So this one's interesting. I know that the side, I'm looking at this triangle here, right? I'm looking at this triangle and this triangle. So I'm looking at these two triangles, and they do share a side. So that side's congruent to itself. But then I also have parallel lines. So the parallel lines tell me that I have this angle here congruent to this one because of alternating interior angles. And I would also have this angle congruent to this one. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. It says from what is marked on the diagram, what can you get as congruent? Well, I mean, I guess we could start out with the angles, or we could start out with that side. So I'm going to go ahead and start by saying AD is congruent to itself, that segment. That's the first thing I spotted. And then the next thing is that we have those congruent angles. So I'm going to talk about angle CAD, congruent to angle BDA. And again, these are alternate interior angles. And then we'd have angle ADC, congruent to angle DAB. So the triangles are congruent because we have an angle and then a side and then an angle. So the side is connecting these two angles. So here's an angle here, here's an angle here, and the side is connecting those two angles. So angle, side, angle. All right, on our last one, we have that side down the middle. This one's kind of blank, so we have to do it on our own. Kind of think about those steps. So we have CA, and I'm going to say segment CA because I'm talking about a side, congruent to DA. So I'm looking at these two side-by-side triangles now, this one and this one. Those are the two triangles we're looking at. I have CB, side CB or segment CB, congruent to segment DB. And then if I think about it, I have this side in the middle that's congruent to itself because that side is part of both triangles. So BA is congruent to BA. So these are going to be congruent by side, side, side. I think these can be really tricky. I know that we're struggling right now. I need you to really work carefully, ask for help, mark on your diagrams. Don't be afraid to use a colored pencil or something, or to mark some things up and then erase them. Check answers with your friends, check answers with me. But the only way we're going to learn this is really by working hard and asking for help if you need it. So if you are just looking at what a friend has and writing down some letters, it's not going to help you. So I hope that you understood our 5-3 notes on angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. And if you do need help, please make sure that you ask.